Well, folks, we're here for the weekly forecast, but unfortunately because the university shut down with the 4th of July, we thought this would be the best opportunity to give you an update of the drought monitor and what we're seeing in terms of potential as we may go through the remainder of the year. We do know that we've had significant moisture all the way from the southern plains through the northern plains as the precipitation really turned itself on as we moved into early May. In fact, looking at record precipitation across a substantial portion of the southern plains all the way up into Nebraska. And that has continued off and on now for the better part of 4 to 6 weeks. And if you look at the monitor compared to what it was 4 months ago, it looks substantially different. Big items of note, we are starting to see the development of drought across the southeast. Whether or not this will continue remains the unknown question, but from past experience, this is an area we need to watch very closely as high pressure is kind of locked into place. And it looks like we'll probably see further deterioration before we see any tropical activity start to infringe onto this area and wipe out some of this dryness issues. The question is, will it expand to the north? It's been aggressively west across the eastern Corn Belt, and so if this dryness starts to move in, I think the major concern for this region would be turning real hot, dry after all this excessive moisture and having shallow-rooted corn, and then unfortunately firing up real fast. To the west, we've actually seen some improvement. As bad as conditions are in California, a substantial area of this part of the region has reduced the drought 1 to 2 levels, but this is a dry time of the year, so we'd expect that this will start to increase as we go to the late summer, and the question remains, will we get an El Nino strong enough to really generate the precipitation to break the back of this drought that's been ongoing now for the better part of 4 or 5 years across the western United States? Well, let's take a look at the sea surface temperatures, see if we've got anything in play. These are basically your anomalies of sea surface temperatures, and you'll notice that we have a very big pool of above normal sea surface temperatures in the eastern equatorial Pacific, moving all the way out into the central equatorial Pacific. This is your El Nino signal, but I want to draw your attention to 2 other areas. One is this little area right off the Baja Peninsula, another one up into the Gulf of Alaska. Both of these have been contributing to an increased strength to the trough coming out of the Pacific Northwest, and this area here bears watching because last year we've seen the same type of signature. We had a very active hurricane system with many of those making it into the southwest that really pumped up their monsoon season, and we expect the same thing. In combination with this El Nino, that should bring a lot of juicy moisture in the western United States, and for Nebraska, what we have seen during these times when we have an El Nino is an increased tendency for above normal moisture, particularly in the August, September, and October period, and centered primarily on August and September. There tends to be a little dryness issue as we get into July, but it's only about 6 out of every 10 events. More importantly, to the west, you'll notice it's very cold conditions. This should inhibit the formation of hurricane activity in the far eastern Atlantic and push it closer to the Gulf of Mexico. If that high pressure remains in place over the southeast, that would steer those tropical systems into the southern plains. And unfortunately, as heavy as the precipitation has been in Texas, this would be another basically swat in the back of the head with additional moisture and flooding precipitation possible if that storm track does come into play.